I want to start here with the failure of the law enforcement response to the massacred Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, last month. Let me first say, I am a huge supporter of police officers in this country at every level. I think defund the police is about the dumbest political agenda ever foisted upon the American people. But at the same time, if there is a problem with law enforcement, I'm not afraid to ask questions and dig deeper. And today, huge questions are being asked about why police were in the building, armed and ready, but still failed to enter rooms 111 and 112 at Robb Elementary. They stood there for 58 minutes, even though more shots could be heard and children were dying. What you're seeing on your screen now is an image taken from inside the school showing police ready to go with rifles and at least one ballistic shield, but they just stood there. 19 school kids, 2 teachers gunned down, massacred that day because the police, obviously armed and partially protected, pretty well protected, were told to wait, to not do what they were trained to do, what they knew they needed to do, what they knew they must do, but yet somehow didn't. And I think I speak for every parent in America. We would have gone in to save our kids if all we had was a squirt gun. I mean, parents were getting detained by police for trying to get inside the school with no weapons at all. How could this have happened? Why would the police stand there and do nothing? Why would the scene commander tell them to stand down? That is something that has a lot of people asking tough questions, questions that so far have not been answered. Why would so many uninformed people stand there? Officers doing nothing while a madman was executing school children. Why would that happen? The director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, Colonel Steve McCraw, is looking for answers. He's emotional. He's angry. And here's what he had to say at the state legislature yesterday.
There's compelling evidence that the law enforcement response to the attack at Robb Elementary was an abject failure and antithetical to everything we've learned over the last 2 decades since the Columbine massacre. 3 minutes after the subject entered the West Building, there was a sufficient number of armed officers wearing body armor to isolate, distract, and neutralize the subject. The only thing stopping a hallway of dedicated officers from entering room 111 and 112 was the on-scene commander, who decided to place the lives of officers before the lives of children.
Now, how can that happen in America, where the person in charge of the scene decides to protect his officers instead of the innocent kids? This exact scenario is why we have a police force to begin with, but McGraw went on, and it gets worse.
The officers had weapons, the children had none. The officers had body armor, the children had none. The officers had training, the subject had none. 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds. That's how long the children waited and the teachers waited in rooms 111 to be rescued. And while they waited, the on-scene commander waited for a radio and rifles. Then he waited for shields. Then he waited for SWAT. Lastly, he waited for a key that was never needed. The post-Columbine doctrine is clear and compelling and unambiguous. Stop the killing, stop the dying. You can't do the former unless you can't do the latter unless you do the former.
The question for so many today, why was the decision-making process in this situation so completely paralyzed?